I'm going to help you learn how to maneuver, okay, fluidly around your neck, helping you take back control of what you should sound like because you have it up here.
Welcome to Musical Maestros. Be sure to click that subscribe button and hit that bell. Don't miss out.
So, are you stuck playing open chords in G? You know, as a beginner guitarist, you know, the conventional G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. I'd like to show you an approach that will free you. Watch and learn. So back intro. So this progression is two, 3, 4, and 5, which is A minor, B minor, C, and D, right? 2, 3. How about you do it like this? Okay, bonus solo section. I'll start with the conventional major scale. 1, 2, 3. I'll be I'll be frank. This isn't something that comes straight out of conventional, you know, guitar training procedure. And I would say musical maestros just invented this as a technique to teach beginners. And I believe it's going to be just what you need if you are the kind of guitarist that feels stranded behind this area of the neck. You don't tend to explore much. You know, this applies to both beginners and intermediates, and you never know, on some level, it may even apply to professionals under certain circumstances. But this class will cut across. I want to help you gain your confidence playing, you know, your instrument by giving you back authority, making you more comfortable with the idea of freedom, okay? The fluidity of expressing yourself musically. Hi, this is Gabriel from Musical Maestros, and in this series, I'm going to help you learn how to maneuver, okay, fluidly around your neck, helping you take back control of what you should sound like because you have it up here. We just need to get your voice out so you can sound the way you do. Anyway, everybody's eyes on this section. I think most guitarists at the beginning should know this. It's a hack that will help you, whether you're a trainer or just, you know, a hobbyist, a beginner, whatever level. These dots on the guitar are extremely essential. Needless to say, they've got a fantastic design. I mean, it's decorative, if that's how they pronounce that. Yeah, it's a nice design. Looks like a sword, looks like a cross, but it's actually quite functional. Not all guitars have that, but a lot of them do. So If you have a guitar, then you've probably seen them. I'd also like to show you that they exist along the top edge, right, of your instrument. And you've got them on the 3rd fret, the 5th fret, the 7th, the 9th, and then the 12th, right? So on the 12th fret, you can see a couple of those dots. At Musical Maestros, we call these guiding dots, okay? Why? Because that's exactly what they do. They help guide a musician. They help guide a guitarist on just what placement and arrangement you need to get certain sounds out. Now, I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos. If you haven't watched my hand tapping class on playing the chromatic scale, you know, using only hand tapping, you can go check it out. Or if you haven't watched my video talking about guitar bells, aka harmonics, you should check it, because I mentioned associating familiarity using these locations. So what we call the first 3 in Musical Maestros, we call these the GAB section. And I said I'd mention this in one of those videos, that the guitar in standard tuning is tuned to be resonant with the key E major, E minor, and then G major and G minor, these keys, okay? And today I'll focus on how the guitar is tuned to resonate with G as a key, which is one of my favorite keys actually. No pun intended, or maybe just a little, but the GAB section, as we like to call it, spells half my name. I'm Gabriel, right? So this section, okay, the first string on the top, which is E, at the point where you have the first guiding dot, that's G, okay? And we have the sequence G, A, and B on an E string, okay? Those would be the notes G, A, and B in standard tuning, which is why we call this the GAB section. G, A, B for GAB. If you like to pronounce it differently, you could say Gabe, and that's what my friends call me. Yes, so you have G, A, and B. This section over here, these 3 dots are extremely essential for beginners, and if you bear with me, I'm about to show you why. All right? So just for the rest of you who may be slow, how can I just go and call this G? The rest of you know just why, so you could as well ignore this, but for a friendly gesture, this is the E string, and if you follow the chromatic scale, you've got E, F, F sharp, and then right there, we've got G, okay? G sharp, A sharp, and then finally B. G, G sharp, A sharp, then B. GAB, okay? So now if I do say so myself, G is such a great key to play guitar, especially in standard tuning. It just gives you so much fluidity, and maybe it's just because it's my favorite key, but it's also a key that most beginners can associate, relate to. When I was starting out learning guitar, the keys that they introduced me to, amongst them, when you're playing your first open chords, you've got D, A, G, C, E. These are some of the chords that we're introduced to. But in this case, because I'm focused on G, I'd like to show you what I wish I learned, at the beginning, starting in the key of G. So these guiding dots, again, right, if you've got G, A, B at the top, check out what happens when you go to the next string, the A string at the bottom. C, D, and E, okay? G, A, B, C, D, and E, which is the majority of the notes you need to play the G major scale. Now, yeah, so that's fantastically easy. What's the point? Okay, so as an acoustic guitarist, teacher, I like to bridge the gap between guitars. I teach bass actually and electric guitar too. We do that here at Musical Maestros. But if you can bridge, a conversation between one instrument and the next, it really helps build context for playing your favorite instrument, in this case acoustic guitar. Now I'd like us to think like basses for a second. In the key of G, you've got G, A, B, C, D, E, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, right? Which is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? All of a sudden. I know most of you know how to play the major scale anyway, but I just wanted to show you that those dots in G associate, with the positions for those numbers, for those solfa notations, for that scale, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And most songs, most pop music is going to fly and hit landing on any of those notes within a given arrangement, which we call a progression, okay? So that's just what it is, because it's pop. It's going to be easy, right? G, A, B, C, D, E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. All right? Just to help anybody else that may be slow, why am I saying this is C, D, and E? Same thing. Just go over the strings using the chromatic scale. You've got A sharp, B, then C. The first dot. C sharp, D. The second dot. And then that easy. So you've got E, right? D sharp, E. And that's the arrangement, okay? But let's see what these arrangements can actually do for you. Because so what? As a bassist, these would be the root notes, okay, that you play for any given progression. Okay, so let's throw a progression here for a second. I'm going to play a backing track. Hopefully it will be loud enough for you all to hear. Now bear with me while I open this backing track. Bear with me. Where can I find this one? So we're going to use a really basic progression, a common progression in common time, 4/4. Oh yeah, and if you may not be familiar with the software I'm using for creating my backing tracks, you should really consider MuseScore Studios. You can download this on your PC or on your mobile. It's a really versatile way to understand how to read music and to compose. It's a really great tool, and it's what I personally use when creating my backing tracks. Speaking of which, even though it's taking me some time to find the file, it at least gives me enough time to tell you a little bit about MuseScore. Yeah, so are you the kind of person who finds reading music appalling? Okay, I understand. I was in that bandwagon for a long time, even at the professional level. It just slowed me down, right? And I guess it would be because of how teachers approach, music theory, introducing it to beginners. But really, music theory doesn't have to be an obstacle to you. You just want to associate those sublime graphics to your understanding of music. And if you're that kind of guitarist, you'd like to understand what's with the what's with the ledger lines, the quarter notes and all that. Yeah, we can talk about that, because I'm going to leave my contact details in the bio so I can help you on your journey. But MuseScore, though, is a really great tool if you want to understand music theory for yourself. Install the update. All right, okay. It was installing an update. While it installs the update, let's have some fun. So, alright, so what did I just do? I played a basic chord formation and took those basic chord formations across those areas that we find those dots in the key of G. And what I did was very simple. if you struggle understanding why chords maintain the shapes they do on any instrument, this is going to actually help you visualize that, right? What is a chord, firstly? A chord is simply a combination of two or more notes that sing together in some kind of harmony. And guess what? If you've got two notes together, they do have a certain harmonic association. And that's where we get the different names for chords based on what two notes may be placed in the same rhythmic interval. Okay? If my terminology is complex, then my visuals will be easy. Take this for instance, you've got G, right? That's the single note, G. How do you get from that note to holding a chord? Okay, I'll give you a simple formula. Triads for major chords are always the 1, the 3rd, and the 5th in the scale, as in 1, 2, 3. So you have the 1 and the 3, okay? The 1 and the 3, making a basic, very basic chord, a diatone, so to speak. It's got two tones, same interval, and there we have G major. Okay, now the reason why that's extremely important is because I'm going to be using those shapes, replicating them as we go. This lesson is probably going to be longer than I expected, but that's fine. Take away what you can, enjoy what comes out of it after you cook with it. So you have G major. And why do we call that major anyway? It's because the arrangement I used was the 1 and the 3. That creates that uplifting, happy tone to it. But how you make it minor is if you slide the 3rd, which in this case is the index finger, on the A string in the 2nd fret. Just slide the 3rd a half step backwards, and suddenly you have a minor chord, which sounds less jovial and more melancholy, more, sad, low energy. I wouldn't say low energy, but you get the picture. It has a different emotional vibe, okay? So, I'll say this quickly. When you play the scale, the major scale, do, a dear, female dear, okay? The major scale is giving you a blueprint just how you relate to that key that you're in. And each number in the scale, each solfa note in the scale has its own temperament. Temperament, I mean, it gives you a different emotional vibe, okay? Now the rule of thumb is the 1s are always major, okay? The 4 and the 5, those are major. But the minor temperaments in this case would be the 2, the 3, and the 6, because we're handling just 1 to 6, okay? So that affects the shape. That affects the shape you expect while you play a basic chord. And this applies to any instrument, okay? So you can extract and build chords for yourself. If you're a beginner, this is extremely essential for you, okay? Just to help you gain freedom. Now, this is where you gain the freedom. You've been playing open chords, okay? Like that. And in G, you know how to play G probably, you know how to play E minor, you know how to play C, you know how to play D, but all the while you are stuck playing it on this side of the neck, okay? Because you're not sure what happens maybe if you try to move those shapes around the neck, okay? So let's start real simple. That shape for G, you see it? You've got your index finger on the G, guiding dot, okay? And then you've got your middle finger rather on the guiding dot up here on the GAB section, first dot, G. And then you've got your index on the A string in the 2nd fret. This is a major shape. I want you to pay attention to those shapes because they are what you're going to be moving, okay? You've got G, which is 1, which is major, okay? Remember what we said about the 2? It's minor. So let's say that we move the G shape from the 1st guiding dot, taking it to the 2nd guiding dot, where we have A, okay? Which is the 2nd number in the octave. Here we are at B. If we move the G shape and maintain the 1, the 2, and the 3rd, it will be a happy temperament. But we already mentioned that the number 2 is minor, so we will slide that backward. A fret. So we have Do, which is G, Re, which is A minor, okay? In this case, as a beginner, you'd be playing G and then A minor, right? But do this instead, because all strings resonate with this. You shouldn't be afraid that when you just hold the 2 positions that I showed you, that you can do this and still sound great with G. And even if you move that shape and take it to the number 2, the 2nd area of the 2nd area with guiding dots, okay, and you hold this shape, one of your fingers is on the B. That is the 2nd guiding dot on the E string, and then your other finger, your index finger, or whatever finger you feel comfortable with, is on the A string in the 2nd guiding dot. You can still slide that down and produce this great tone for A minor. Very rich and open compared to your conventional. Right? So 1, 2. So G, A. So now that you have those shapes down for major and minor, and just so I make sure you did, the minor shape is 2 frets apart from the root, okay? On the string adjacent, the string right underneath, okay? Major shape, just a fret apart. Minor shape, 2 frets apart. I think you can see that. I want to make sure you see that. Major, okay, minor. So you have G major, okay, A minor. What comes next? B minor, right? So just slide that shape. And then now go down to the next string. And then the sequence is going to be repeated. On the 4, which is Fa, okay, you will hold the same shape you did for G major, but this time you will hold that on the A string, still starting with the guiding dot, the 1st guiding dot, and then your other finger will be on the just that position. Just move this shape downward, okay? So the 4s, the 5s are major, okay? So we have 1 is major, 4 is major. So you see how that shape was retained, yeah? Because you have the 1 and the 3, okay? Now, 5 is major too. So all you have to do is slide this shape from the 1st guiding dot to the 2nd guiding dot. This time you retain that shape. C and then D. As opposed to playing C like that and then D like this, how about you just play them smooth and easy? C, D. Finally, the number 6. The moment you've all been waiting for, okay? So what positions do you think 6 will assume in this case? Well, It's easy to see from here, okay? One of your fingers will touch the third guiding dot, okay, which would be the 6. G, A, B, C, D, E minor, right? Because the 6 is always going to be a sad temperament. E minor will assume the same shape, okay? Just to make sure you see that. As all the other minors that we held, just 2 notes, okay? And what's that shape? 2 frets apart. Because otherwise, if you held it like a major, it will gain a more joyful temperament. So let's go over those shapes quickly. You've got G major. Say them with me. Okay, G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, and E minor. If you play them as open chords the conventional way, G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, and E minor. Those are the conventional shapes that you know, okay? G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, and E minor. All right, but let's see what sounds nicer. All right, it doesn't sound conventional, but it sounds great regardless of what technique you use. If you're supposed to play those just focusing on the tones of the strings that you're holding, it produces some really, really great tones. Now, if you play solo guitar, if you play electric guitar, those combinations make for such great reps. And it's really, really simple. What progression was that? I was simply flying from 6, 5, 4, okay? So, okay, let's mess around with some other progression. I promised to play a backing track with this. So this isn't it, but okay, scratch that. Seems I'm still having trouble. Okay, back at this. So let's play something more common. Very easy progression. I just played 1, okay, 5, 6, and 4, okay? G, D, E minor, and C, okay? Let's see what happens. Let's experiment with this other, well, alternative freedom technique. Yes, I know, it's surprising. All I did was hold exactly those simple positions, and it's much easier for anyone, even a beginner, to grip, so you can have the rest of your fingers for embellishment. And the freedom that comes with that, it's redemption. I will show you how to make the most of those open aspects, because G is tuned, okay? The guitar is tuned rather to resound with G, okay, as a key. Maybe it's because it's called the guitar, but who knows? Maybe it's because I'm called Gabriel. Alright, have fun with that, guys. Have fun with it. Do all sorts of things with it. I'd like to see what each of you could create using this really fantastic, freeing technique. Okay, see you on the next class. I promise to do a backing track, so if you don't listen to it at the end of this video, it means I just jam to it at the beginning and ignore what I'm saying at the end, because you've listened to it already.